Hey folks, Drew here with just a little video on how to use the Algebra toolbar in Teachermade in order to fill in some of your answers for translating expressions. So, once you go to your assignment, and this one's slightly different than the one I assigned you, but it works the same way. Go to your assignment, type in your name, and begin. And this is a worksheet that we have that I used last year, but it's pretty similar to what your assignment is for translating expressions, for writing algebraic expressions, right? Hopefully you looked at the notes and or the video, and let's just practice putting an answer in. So the first one says, write each as an algebraic expression. So we're going to translate these words into mathematical symbols. And you notice what happens when I clicked on the box, right? If I click off the box, but when I click on the box, this little toolbar appears down here with some additional symbols and things so that I can put in fractions, or I can put in exponents. Most of these other symbols I don't need, right? And sometimes I don't even need them to put in the answer, like this first one here. When I see the word the sum, I know that I have to add, right? And I want to add x and 9, but if you remember, there's a proper way to write that. I could write x plus 9, but it's more proper, that is the proper way to put the variable first, put the variable first, no spaces, find the plus sign on your keyboard or your tablet, put the plus sign in, and then 9. Right? And then that answer is in there. And I can go to number 2. Decrease means subtract. Remember that the order has to be correct with subtraction. So I'm going to put in 14 first, subtract 13. Right? Now down here we have a quotient problem. And it involves, just a mathematical expression, there's no letters, but to put in a quotient, remember that we always want to show our division, that's what quotient means, as a fraction or with the fraction bar. So I'm going to select this first box here. It looks like a box, fraction bar on top of a box, and when I kind of hover over it there, it says fraction, right? So I'm going to hit that, I'm going to hit that first. And notice that my cursor is on top of a fraction, so I want to put it in the exact order that the quotient is listed here. The quotient of 36 and 6, so my first number is 36. And I read the fraction bar as divide by 36 divided by 6. So to get down to the bottom shelf, I have to use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So I hit the down arrow and I put in the 6. And then that is entered, right? I can just hit enter, or I can just click off the box onto the next problem. 5 more than 5, that's just adding 5 plus 5. Let's look at another problem with a quotient. Here's the quotient of x and 5. So I click on the box, I click on my algebra toolbar, click on fraction, and I'm going to put, in this case, the first term listed is the x, so I'm going to put x on top, down arrow, 5. If I had to do something else like add something to it or multiply it, I would have to leave that fraction. And to leave that fraction, I can either just kind of put my cursor and use the mouse to click it over here, right? Or if I was in the fraction, I could use, just like on the GED calculator, I could use the right arrow to kind of leave the fraction as well. And if I had to put a plus 3 or something like that, then I can do that. Right, but make sure you're out of the fraction when you do that, because if you don't, you're just going to get plus 3 at the bottom of the fraction. Right, so to leave the fraction, we hit the right arrow, or just use the mouse and move the cursor over. All right. So there's a couple other things. I just want to show you one other thing. That's how we put in fractions. Watch problems where they ask you for the sum or the difference. this is 5 times the sum of x and 12. So we have to get the sum of x and 12 first. So that's a type of problem that indicates that we need to use parentheses, right? And so when you use parentheses, I want to do 5 times the sum of x and 12. We don't need to use the multiplying sign hardly ever in algebra. So don't use the multiplying sign up here, or don't try to type an x or a star or anything like that. We just need to put the number out in front of the parentheses. And again, no spaces, 5. And notice when I hit the parentheses, it has sort of like the 2 parentheses already in there. So all I got to do is put the expression that I need to in the parentheses, which is the sum of x and 12, which means I'm going to add x plus 12. But remember, 2, and it's again not in this particular problem, that if we have an addition problem, a sum or total problem, if this were to say the sum of 12 and x, right, I still would write, it's more proper to write the variable first, right, because we can change the order of addition without changing the answer. So always try and write the variable, the letter, first, and the constant, right, which is the regular plain number, right, that last in addition problems. Right. And let me see if there's one like that up here. Yeah, this one says x more than 7, so the proper way to write that is not x plus 7. Actually, it is. That is the proper way to write it, x plus 7. You want to put the variable first. All right, so x plus 7. Right, and watch those less thans. Are there any less than problems? Yeah, is there any up here? Right, this is a tricky one too. 6 less than the product of 3 and a number x. Product means multiply, but remember that than flips the order. So I'm not going to start with 6. I'm going to start with what's after the 6, because less than means subtract from. Right, so I'm going to subtract 6 from the product of 3 and a number x. So the proper way to write this one is to write, again, multiplying, we just put letters against the numbers right up against the letters. So 3 times x is 3x, but then I want to do 6 less, so 6 less than, so that's going to be minus 6 comes afterwards, right? It's not 6 minus 3x. That would give us a different answer. Right? The order matters with subtraction. Same thing as the order matters in division. You got to have the right number on top of the fraction bar. The first number listed, usually. All right. Here's one that says 1/2 the difference of x and 4. Right? So in this case, I have, when I say 1/2, or of, 1/2 of the difference, the word of is kind of implied there. That means I have to multiply by the fraction. So if I'm doing 2/3 of something, 1/2 of something, that's a fraction out in front as a coefficient or a multiplier. So I got to start with the fraction. So I got to go up here to my little bar, put in 1, down arrow 2. I got to put in my parentheses, but before I got to leave the fraction, right? Then I got to put in my parentheses the difference, right? That means subtract, and subtract has to be in the order that it's given, x and 4. So it's going to be x minus 4. Right? And you can see that the parenthesis is gray there, so as soon as I leave that box, it'll finish the parentheses. I don't need to put the second one in there. All right. And that's what we have to do.